The story opens on a cold, gray morning. The city hums with life, pedestrians briskly walk with steaming coffee cups in hand, cars honk impatiently in the distance, and storefronts glow with warmth against the dreary rain. Amidst the hustle, a man sits on the sidewalk outside a bustling restaurant. His clothes are worn, his shoes barely held together, and his hands tremble slightly as he clutches a cardboard sign. The words written in bold, uneven strokes read, "Hungry. Anything helps?" People rush past him, their eyes darting away to avoid the awkwardness of acknowledgement. A soft piano melody drifts from the restaurant behind him, contrasting the harshness of his reality with the warmth and comfort he can't reach. The man, Jacob, watches through the fogged-up glass windows as families laugh and share meals inside. The aroma of freshly baked bread and sizzling bacon wafts through the air, teasing him with what feels like a world away. His stomach growls, but his heart sinks even further as a sharp pang of shame overtakes him. Jacob gathers his courage and approaches the restaurant door. His hand hesitates before he pulls it open, only to be met by a manager with a cold stare. "We don't allow beggars here," the man says curtly, stepping in to block the entrance. The door slams shut. Jacob, drenched in rain and humiliation, turns away, his sign slipping from his grasp onto the wet pavement. That door wasn't just a barrier between Jacob and a warm meal. It was a reminder of how invisible he'd become. But life has a way of turning the tables in the most unexpected ways. Jacob shuffles to a nearby park, his soaked sign crumpled under his arm. The park is quiet, save for the distant laughter of children playing and the occasional bark of a dog. Jacob finds a bench and sits, his gaze distant. As he pulls a tattered photo from his pocket, a picture of a younger him with his wife and daughter, the rain seems to blur their smiles, much like time has blurred the life he once had. Jacob's internal monologue reveals his desires, not just food or shelter but dignity. He yearns for a second chance, a way to prove to himself, and perhaps his estranged family, that he's still capable of rebuilding. Yet, the weight of his failures feels insurmountable. An older woman named Margie, a kind but firm street vendor, approaches Jacob. She hands him a steaming cup of soup. "I've seen you here for weeks," she says, her voice laced with both curiosity and concern. "Why don't you try one of the shelters?" Jacob shakes his head, his pride stifling his words. "They're full." Or worse, he mutters. Margie frowns but doesn't press. "Well, you can't just sit here waiting for miracles," she says. "Sometimes you have to make them yourself." Margie's words linger with Jacob as he notices a help-wanted sign in the window of a nearby shop. He hesitates, then walks in. The manager eyes him warily but agrees to let Jacob work a trial shift cleaning after hours. The night begins well, but Jacob accidentally breaks a dish while scrubbing in the back. The manager storms in, furious. "This isn't a charity." "You're done," he snaps. Jacob pleads for another chance, but the man dismisses him, leaving Jacob standing in the empty, fluorescent-lit kitchen, a harsh echo of rejection pounding in his ears. Life's setbacks can feel relentless, especially for those already at their breaking point. But even in the bleakest moments, small sparks, kind words, a fleeting opportunity, can ignite something profound. Jacob's spark, though dim, was far from extinguished. Jacob wanders the city streets after being dismissed from the restaurant job. The cold wind bites at his skin, but the sting of failure burns deeper. He passes closed shopfronts, their reflections taunting him with images of his disheveled appearance and the yawning void of hopelessness. At a bus stop, Jacob sits beside a young girl and her mother. The girl offers him a lollipop with an innocent smile. Jacob hesitates before accepting, overwhelmed by the kindness. It's a small, almost insignificant gesture, but it tugs at memories of his daughter. He quietly thanks the girl, his voice cracking with gratitude. As the bus pulls away, Jacob whispers to himself, "I can't keep living like this. I have to try again." For her. Inspired, Jacob takes Margie's advice to heart. He decides to approach the owner of the restaurant where he was denied entry, determined to pitch himself as an employee despite his appearance. He practices his words all the way there, fighting waves of self-doubt. When Jacob arrives, the owner, a no-nonsense, middle-aged man named Mr. Patel, is skeptical. "You've got guts showing up here again," he says, arms crossed. Jacob responds with humility and persistence, "I need work, sir. I'll clean the floors, wash dishes, whatever it takes. Just give me one chance." Mr. Patel finally agrees but warns Jacob, "One mistake and you're out." Jacob starts immediately, scrubbing floors and hauling trash long after the restaurant closes. It's grueling, thankless work, but Jacob finds solace in the steady rhythm and the knowledge that he's earning something for himself. However, the restaurant's chef, a gruff man named Luis, isn't pleased. "We don't need charity cases slowing us down," he grumbles. Jacob overhears but chooses to remain silent, focusing on his work. One night, Jacob notices an order ticket left unfilled on the counter during a busy dinner service. The kitchen is in chaos, and Luis is overwhelmed. Summoning courage, Jacob steps in. Though he's never cooked professionally, he uses the recipes he remembers from his past to prepare the dish. When Luis discovers this, he's furious. "Stay in your lane, old man," he shouts. But Mr. Patel, drawn by the commotion, tastes the dish. After a long pause, he looks at Jacob. "Where did you learn to cook like that?" Jacob's journey wasn't just about survival, it was about rediscovering the pieces of himself he thought were lost. And in that chaotic kitchen, a glimmer of his former life began to resurface, setting the stage for something extraordinary. It's a busy evening at the restaurant. The dining area is filled with the sound of clinking silverware and lively chatter. Jacob works quietly in the back, cleaning as usual, when a sudden crisis erupts. Luis collapses mid-shift, clutching his chest. Chaos ensues as staff rush to call for help, but with the dinner rush in full swing, the kitchen descends into disarray. Jacob steps forward, nerves trembling but resolve unwavering. "I can cook," he declares, surprising even himself. Mr. Patel hesitates, but with no time to argue, he nods sharply. "You're up." Jacob ties on an apron and dives in, his movements deliberate but tense. He calls out orders, his voice gaining strength with each dish he plates. Memories of his past life flood back. Cooking for his family, the joy of creating something from nothing. Despite the pressure, Jacob handles the kitchen with surprising skill, earning the wary respect of the staff. When the night ends, the dining room erupts in applause as Mr. Patel announces that the restaurant not only made it through the crisis but also received glowing reviews from patrons. Jacob, exhausted and covered in flour, stands stunned as Mr. Patel approaches. "You didn't just save tonight, you reminded me why I opened this place," Mr. Patel says, his voice filled with rare warmth. "You've got more to offer than you know, Jacob." For the first time in years, Jacob feels pride swell in his chest, not just for surviving, but for thriving in a moment that mattered. In that chaotic kitchen, Jacob wasn't just reclaiming a job, he was reclaiming his purpose. And sometimes, all it takes is one courageous step to transform a life that seemed broken beyond repair. Weeks pass, and Jacob becomes an integral part of the restaurant team. The once skeptical staff now greet him with nods of respect, and even Luis, recovering from his health scare, admits, "You're not half bad." Jacob's cooking becomes a quiet highlight of the menu, with regulars asking for his dishes by name. One evening, as the restaurant is closing, Mr. Patel calls Jacob into his office. "You've done more for this place than I could have imagined," he says, sliding a set of keys across the desk. Jacob stares at them, confused. "It's yours," Mr. Patel continues. "I've been looking to step away for a while. You've proven you're the right person to take over." Overwhelmed, Jacob steps outside, the cool night air hitting his face as he clutches the keys. His journey flashes before him, the bench in the park, the rejections, the kitchen chaos, and now this moment of triumph. He walks back to the park where Margie first gave him soup. She's packing up her cart, and Jacob hands her a to-go container from the restaurant. "I took your advice," he says with a smile. Margie laughs, her eyes warm. "I told you. Sometimes, you've got to make your own miracles." Jacob's story isn't just one of redemption, it's a testament to resilience and the quiet power of kindness. From a bench in the park to the helm of a bustling restaurant, his journey reminds us that second chances don't just come, they're made. And sometimes, they start with a single act of hope. Jacob unlocks the restaurant's front door the next morning, sunlight spilling onto the floor. The sign above now reads, "Jacob's Place."